Sahih Al Bukhari, the Book of Knowledge, Chapter 4, What has been reported regarding knowledge. Sharik ibn Abdullah ibn Abi Namr reported that he heard Anas bin Malik say, "While we were sitting with the Prophet, peace be upon him, in the mosque, a man came riding a camel. He made it kneel in the mosque and tied it, then said to the people, 'Which of you is Muhammad?' The Prophet, peace be upon him, was reclining among them. So we said, 'That white man who is reclining.' The man said to him, 'Son of Abdul Muttalib?' The Prophet, peace be upon him, replied, 'I have answered you.' The man said, 'I am going to ask you something and will be strict in my questioning, so do not hold anything against me.' The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, 'Ask whatever you wish.' The man said, 'I ask you by your Lord and the Lord of those before you. Has Allah sent you to all of mankind?' The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, 'By Allah, yes.' The man said, 'I ask you by Allah, did Allah command you to establish the 5 daily prayers during the day and night?' The Prophet, peace be upon him, replied, 'By Allah, yes.' He said, 'I ask you by Allah, did Allah command you to have us fast this month of the year?' The Prophet, peace be upon him, replied, 'By Allah, yes.' He then said, 'I ask you by Allah, did Allah command you to take this charity from our rich and distribute it among our poor?' The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, 'By Allah, yes.' The man said, 'I believe in what you have brought, and I am the messenger of those behind me from my people. I am Dimam ibn Tha'laba from the tribe of Banu Sa'd bin Bakr.'" Before presenting this great chapter, Imam al-Bukhari began by emphasizing the virtue of knowledge and one of the most important issues related to its acquisition and transmission by citing the verse from the Quran and say, "My Lord, increase me in knowledge." This is the only verse in the Quran where the Prophet, peace be upon him, is commanded to ask for an increase in something, and that something is knowledge. This highlights its great status, high rank, and that it is among the most noble things to seek. Then al-Bukhari moved to the topic of reading to the scholar, also known in Arabic as al-ard, the presentation, which means that the student recites the hadith while the scholar listens and acknowledges it. Al-Bukhari discussed the permissibility of this method of transmission, using as evidence the hadith of Dimam ibn Tha'laba, may Allah be pleased with him, who came to the Prophet, peace be upon him, and asked about the pillars of Islam in a confirmatory way, saying, "Did Allah command you that we should pray?" The Prophet, peace be upon him, replied, "Yes." Al-Bukhari counted this as a form of presenting the knowledge to the Prophet and his acknowledgement of it. Then the Imam informed his people of what he heard, and they accepted his narration, indicating the correctness of this method. Then Al-Bukhari cited the opinions of early scholars, such as Al-Hasan al-Basri, Al-Thawri, and Malik, who permitted reading to the scholar. Some of them explicitly stated that the scholar's reading to the student and the student reading to the scholar are equal, meaning there is no difference whether the reciter is the teacher or the student, as long as accuracy and correction are ensured. The Imam recited to the Prophet, peace be upon him, what he wanted to know, and the Prophet, peace be upon him, acknowledged it, without saying, "Allah commanded me to pray," or "He commanded you to perform these prayers at their prescribed times," but rather limited his reply to what the Imam presented and affirmed it by saying, "Yes." Malik also used a practical analogy from daily life, such as what happened with documents and contracts that are read to people who testify to them without reading themselves, indicating acceptance of listening in this way. From this chapter, it is understood that Imam al-Bukhari intended to establish foundational principles for acquiring knowledge and expand the range of acceptable means of learning, provided there is verification and discipline. The method of presentation, al-ard, is considered a valid and reliable way, just like direct hearing from the scholar himself, as many hadith scholars have endorsed it through the centuries. In this hadith, Anas, may Allah be pleased with him, shared a vivid scene from the Prophet's mosque, where he and other companions sat quietly around the Prophet, peace be upon him, in such humility that a newcomer couldn't tell who the Prophet was. The Imam ibn Tha'laba entered on his camel, tied it inside the mosque, and prepared to ask about the core teaching of Islam so he could share them with his people, Banu Sa'd bin Bakr. Looking around and not recognizing the Prophet due to his modesty and the equality in the gathering, the Imam asked directly, "Which one of you is Muhammad?" a question that reflects both his seriousness and the Prophet's humility among his companions. The Prophet, peace be upon him, was reclining among his companions, not distinguished by position or appearance. When the Imam asked, "Which of you is Muhammad?" they simply replied, "The white man reclining." After being directed, the Imam said, "Son of Abdul Muttalib," a direct way to confirm his identity, using a well-known ancestor as was common in Arab speech. The Prophet, peace be upon him, replied simply, "I have answered you," instead of saying, "Yes," because the Imam didn't address him with the proper respect, especially considering the verse in the Quran do not make the calling of the messenger among yourself like the calling of one another. The Imam, being new to Islam, hadn't yet learned this etiquette. His direct Arabi manners appeared again when he said, I'll question you strictly, so do not be upset. This shows the wisdom of opening a conversation with an apology or clarification. It softens the tone and prepares the listener to respond patiently. In this part of the hadith, the Imam ibn Thalaba earnestly seeks to confirm the truth of the Prophet's message, peace be upon him. He asks, I ask you by your Lord and the Lord of those before you, did Allah send you to all people? The Prophet, peace be upon him, replies, by Allah, yes. The use of Allah with extended pronunciation reflects an old Arabic form of serious questioning, invoking God's name to affirm sincerity and truth. The Imam then continued his questioning using the phrase anshuduka billah in Arabic, a form of oath and strong affirmation. The word originates from nasheed, meaning to raise one's voice, implying, I ask you, raising my plea, and adjure you by Allah to answer truthfully. He proceeded to ask about each pillar of Islam, prayer, fasting, and zakah, and the Prophet, peace be upon him, responded each time, by Allah, yes. This serves as evidence that when a student reads a hadith to a scholar, and the scholar affirms it, it is a valid method of receiving knowledge, just as the Imam asked and the Prophet, peace be upon him, confirmed. This is known as reading to the scholar with his approval. At the end of this powerful exchange, the Imam ibn Thalaba firmly declared his faith, saying, I believe in what you have brought, and I am the messenger of those behind me from my people. I am the Imam ibn Thalaba of the tribe of Banu Sa'd bin Bakr. This was the same tribe in which the Prophet, peace be upon him, was nursed as a child by Halim al-Sa'diyah, who raised him during his early years in the desert of Banu Sa'd. The Imam's story shows how widely Islamic teaching had already spread among the Arab tribes. He didn't come seeking information, but rather to confirm what he had already knew, listing each pillar of Islam, proof of his prior understanding before even meeting the Prophet, peace be upon him. According to the narration of Ibn Abbas, after the Imam, may Allah be pleased with him, returned to his camel and untied it, he rode straight back to his people. When they gathered around him, he first declared, how vile are Allat and Al-Uzza, their idols. They cried out in shock, stop, Imam, beware of leprosy, madness, and insanity. He replied, woe to you, by Allah, they can neither harm nor benefit. Allah has sent a messenger and revealed to him a book, through which he rescued you from what you were in. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and that Muhammad is his servant and messenger. I have come to you with what he has commanded and forbidden. By the end of that very day, not a single man or woman in his tribe remained without embracing Islam. Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, said, we never heard of any envoy better than the Imam ibn Thalaba. And Umar, may Allah be pleased with him, used to say, I have never seen a question asked more beautifully or concisely than that of the Imam. Ibn Kathir remarked, this context suggests that he returned to his people before the conquest of Mecca, because Khalid ibn al-Walid destroyed Al-Uzza during the conquest. The story of the Imam's Islam gives us a noble prophetic example of the Prophet's, peace be upon him, patience and wisdom in his da'wah, especially in how he receives delegations with differing beliefs and mindsets. It shows his care and eagerness to guide them. Many of these delegations returned to their people as barrier of light and truth, teaching what they had learned, leading entire tribes to Islam. Thus, by the 9th year of Hijrah, Islam had spread across the entire Arabian Peninsula.